Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. I'm going to start just by writing down the number. And we're asked to round this to three significant figures, and basically what that means is starting from the left hand side, it's three numbers that we want. So 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do our line after that third number. And you start counting the first non-zero digit. So the first digit there was 2, so we started counting. Now all the numbers to the left, or sorry, to the right, so these numbers here, will all turn to 0. But before that happens, we look at this number. Now this number, if it's 5 or more, it moves this number up by 1. If it's less than 5, that number stays the same. Now it is 5 or more, because it is 5. So it's not going to be 207, it's going to be 208. Now, a common mistake is that students write down 208. No. All the numbers to the right of that line turn to 0. So it would be 0, 0, 0. So it would be 20,000 or 208,000 exactly. This coordinate is telling us to go 2 to the left from the center. We go right when it's positive, we go left when it's negative, so it's 2 to the right. And then it's telling us to go 1 up. It's up because it's positive. So we need to go 1 up, and we get to the coordinate of B. So the coordinate we get to is B. And so we just look at the -2 on the x-axis and the 1 on the y-axis, and that is where point B is. If we tried to draw a quadrilateral with a pair of parallel sides, and then it's a quadrilateral, so join them up, it's got 4 sides, then the shape we draw will always be a trapezium. So our answer is that it is a trapezium. Now you might think that a rectangle and square does have one pair of parallel sides, but it actually has 2 pairs of parallel sides. The definition of a trapezium is it has just 1 pair of parallel sides, and any quadrilateral that has 1 pair of parallel sides is a trapezium. If you imagine these numbers written out as a list, there would be 5 lots of zeros, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There'd be 9 lots of 1, so 1, 1, etc., etc. Okay, so when we're looking to see the total number of goals scored in the season, we could write them out as a list and then add them up. But a quicker way of doing that is just multiplying the amount of goals by the frequency. So we've got 5 lots of 0 goals, which will just be 0. 9 lots of 1 goal, so that's just 9. 4 lots of 2 goals, so that's 8. 6 lots of 3 goals, that's 18. And then 6 lots of 4 goals, that's 24. So all we need to do now is add up the 0, 9, 8, 18 and 24, which brings us to 59. So there were 59 goals scored. So we're going to find out the multiplier first, and we do that by starting with 100%, and it says it increased by 11.2%, so we're just going to add 11.2%, which will give us 111.2%. Then we're going to make that into a decimal by dividing by 100, and this will make it into a multiplier, so it's 1.112. That's our multiplier, and the beauty of a multiplier is all we do is we get our amount, which is 840, and multiply it by the multiplier, and it will do all the hard work for us and give us the answer of 934.08. For each of these options, try and construct in your head the triangles that would be made from these lengths. And I'm going to give an example for question D, or for option D. And I'm going to construct my triangle just with sticks. So we're going to start off with our first stick, which is 19 centimeters. Then we're going to do another stick, which is going to be 37 centimetres. And we've got one last stick, which is 61 centimetres. Now, looking at the first two sticks, the actual combined distance of them, so when we add them together, so be 19 centimetres plus 37 centimetres, is 56 centimetres. So that's the combined width of them. And you can see that that actually wouldn't be able to create a triangle if the third stick is 61 centimetres. So the side here could combine with this side. So we could move this whole stick here onto this side here, but we can't actually make a triangle with it because the two lengths that we've got won't ever reach the end bit here. They just won't ever reach that bit to be able to create the triangle. And I'm just going to put that back. So our answer is option D. So for this question, we need to understand that the units we currently have are in meters per second, and the units we want to get them to or convert them to are kilometers per hour. Now, to convert the meters part is quite easy because all we need to do is divide by 1,000. And when you divide the top of a fraction by 1,000, all you do is you just divide the whole thing by 1,000. So we're just going to divide the whole thing by 1,000. So we've got 95, and we're going to divide the whole thing by 1,000, so we get 0.095, and that's going to be kilometers per second, because we haven't dealt with the seconds yet. So that's the easy part. The more difficult part is converting the seconds to hours. So to convert seconds to hours, we divide by 60 and then divide by 60. So we divide it by 360. Seems simple enough. But the seconds are at the bottom of a fraction, and when you divide the bottom of a fraction by something, you actually times the whole fraction by that thing. So we're going to times the whole fraction by 360. And so we do 0.095 times 360, and you get the answer of 342 kilometers per hour. So our answer is 342 kilometers per hour. First thing I'm going to do to answer this question is I'm just going to quickly draw out the shape again, just so I can show the calculations a bit easier. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do on the diagram is convert all of these lengths to centimetres. So we've got 4,200, 1,200, 2,400 and 1,800. And next I'm going to convert them into what the scale says they're going to be in our diagram. So a scale of 1 to 600 means 600 in real life, and this diagram is showing the real life situation, is 1 on our diagram. So I've converted them all in centimetres, and now I need to work out how many centimetres there are going to be on our diagram. So I'm going to start with the 4,200, and all you need to do is divide it by 600, and I get the answer of 7. So it's going to be 7 centimetres on our diagram. 1,200 divided by 600, it's going to be 2. So that's going to be 2 centimetres on our diagram. 2,400 is obviously going to be 4 centimetres. And 1,800, divide that by the 600, it's obviously going to be 3. So it's going to be 3 centimetres. So now we know what it's going to be on our diagram. We draw it. So we're going to do 7 across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 across there. I'm going to do 2 down. So 1, 2, 4 across. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do the left hand one first, I think. So we're going to do 3 down here. And then we just kind of join it up what's left over. And that's our diagram. So there's a formula for percentage increase or percentage change. And it is the change over the original amount times 100%. So to find out the change here, we're going to do the difference between 1,421 and 1,100. So we're going to do 1,421 take away 1,100, which is 321. Divide that by the original amount. So the original amount was the 1,100, and then times by 100%. And that's going to be 29.18%. Okay, first of all, we need to work out what the interior angles would add up to. So the sum of the interior angles is equal to n minus 2 times 180. Now n is the amount of sides, but it says it has 5 sides, so it would be 5 take away 2, which is 3, and then times 180, which would be 540. So we know it will add up to 540. So all we need to do is get that 540 and take away all the angles that we know. So the 118, the 84, the 108, and the 151. And when you do that, you get the answer of 79. Rate is always something over time. So in this question, we can work out the rate as being the pay, or the final pay, or whatever, over time. Now we're asked what the time is, so we're just going to put the time on the left-hand side, and we're just going to swap the rate and time over. So it would just be pay over rate. The pay is £180. The rate is £12 an hour. So it'd be 180 divided by 12, which is 15. So it'll take 15 hours. The question asks us to find the bearing of adrift from Billstown. So we're at Billstown and we're looking at the bearing of adrift from it. So we're looking at this angle here. And so to find that angle, all we need to do is 360 degrees, which is angle at a point, and then take away the 39 degrees that we know, and that equals 321 degrees. And the reason why we find this angle is that all bearings are from north going clockwise. So the answer is 321. We've got to first of all work out how many parts there are altogether in our ratio. So we've got 51 saying yes, 7 saying no, and 13 undecided. So altogether, we've got 51 plus 7 plus 13, which is 71 parts. Now each part is equal. So to find out the value of one part, we're going to do how many students there are, which is 2,911, and divide it by the 71 to find out what one part is worth, how many students are in one part. One part's worth 41 students. So each one of those parts in the ratio is 41 students. Now yes, because it goes yes, no, undecided, yes will be the 51 there. So it's 51 lots of 41 students. 51 parts with each part representing 41 students. And when you multiply those together, you get 2,091. So our answer is that 2,091 students responded with yes. These types of angles aren't exclusive to parallel lines, but they do crop up quite a lot of times when you're dealing with parallel lines, and these are vertically opposite. So when you've got an angle this side and an angle this side of where two lines intersect, they're known to be vertically opposite. And the beautiful thing about vertically opposite angles is they are equal. So x is just going to equal 15 degrees. And the reason you need to state is that they are vertically opposite. Make sure you state vertically opposite. Sometimes in some exams opposite is enough and in other exams it has to be vertically opposite. The first thing we need to do is work out what angle CBD is. So we're looking for angle CBD, and that's going to be 180 take away 170, and the reason being is it's angles on straight line. Angles on a straight line add up to 180, so that's going to be 10 degrees, so this will be 10 degrees. We then need to find out what angle CDB is, and this is obviously going to be 10 degrees as well because it's angles in an isosceles, so this will be 10 degrees, and the reason will be that it's an isosceles triangle. And to find out what x is going to be, it's going to be 180 subtract 10 plus 10. And the reason for that is it's angles in a triangle add up to 180. So that's going to be 160 degrees. Make sure you state your reasons for every step of the working out because there's normally quite a few marks for the reasons. Okay, so we're going to start by writing this out a little bit bigger, give us a bit more space. So it's minus 6x is less than 60. And we're going to do our tram lines down. And we're going to start by dividing both sides by minus 6. Because that's what this is doing, it's timesing the x by minus 6. So I'm going to divide both sides by minus 6. So that gets rid of the minus 6 on the left hand side. And it's going to be 60 divided by minus 6, which will be minus 10. Now we've got to be really careful here, because whenever you times or divide both sides by a negative, you must switch the inequality. So instead of pointing to the left, it's now going to point to the right. So our answer is x is greater than minus 10. So we're asked to find the value of n where both sequences have the same term. So I'm going to start off by equaling both nth terms to each other. And then we can find the value of n which gives the same term. So I draw my lines down. And I'm going to start off by getting rid of the n's from both sides. So we look to see which is the smaller amount. So we've got 12n and we've got 6n. So the smaller amount is the 6n. So we're going to take away 6n both sides. And so that would be 6n plus 19. And we've got rid of the 6n, so just 79. Next thing we're going to do is get rid of the 19. So take away 19 both sides. And so we've got 6n equals 79 take away 19, which is 60. And finally we just go divide the 6. And so that would be n equals 10. So the value of n is 10. Now we can just test this, because if you do 6 times 10, which is 60, 60 plus 79, which would be 139. And then if we do the same for the top one, 12 times 10, which is 120, plus 19, which is 139. So they both have the same term when n is 10. There's an awful lot going on in this question. Whenever there's an awful lot going on, it's always best to draw a diagram. So we're going to start off at Chelton, which is a C. Then we go to Bolko, that's where we're going. And we go through Devley on the way. So we'll do D there. Distance from Chelton to Devley is 34 miles. Distance from Devley to Bovlo is 16 miles. So I'm just reading through the question, adding it to my diagram. David leaves Chelton at 9 o'clock. He drives from Chelton to Devley an average speed of 68 miles per hour. And what speed does David travel between Devley and Bolko to arrive at 9:45? So the whole duration of this the whole thing needs to be 45 minutes or 0.75 hours. And the entire distance is 34 plus 16, so that would be 50 miles. Okay, now having a look at this, we need to find out what time David was at Devley. So we're going to use our speed, distance, time triangle. So speed equals distance over time. And we're covering up the time, because that's the one we want. So it's going to be time equals distance, which is 34, over speed, which is 68. So we're going to do 34 divided by 68, which is 0.5. So it would be 0.5 hours. So that would be half an hour. So we will be at Devley at 9:30. So that means we've got 15 minutes left. Okay, so we've got 15 minutes to travel the 16 miles. So this time we're looking for the speed. Okay, so it would be speed equals the distance, which is 16 miles, over time, which is 15 minutes, but we need that in hours, so that would be 0.25 hours. And so what we can do here is times top 1 by 4 to get rid of the fraction. So it becomes 64 over 1, or just 64 miles per hour. So our answer is 64 miles per hour. The formula for an exterior angle for a regular polygon is 360 divided by the amount of sides. Now here we're given the fact that the exterior angle is 30. And we're looking for n, so we just need to rearrange the equation. We can times both sides by n. And then divide both sides by 30. And so we've got n equals 360 divided by 30. And when you do 360 divided by 30, we get the answer of 12. So it's a 12-sided shape. So if 2 people liked action but not comedy films, and in total 11 liked action films, therefore there's going to be 9 who also liked comedy, because these 2 have to add up to 11. Now if there's 9 who liked action and comedy, and 16 who liked comedy in total, if we do 16 take away the 9, that leaves 7. So 7 only liked comedy. It says there's 23 people altogether, so what we're going to do is take away the people who liked action, the people who liked both, and the people who liked comedy. Take all those away from 23, and we're left with 5. So the answers are going to be 9, 7, and 5. So if we imagine we've got the 25 metre pipe here, and we've got the 35 metre pipe here. The question's basically asking us, what can we cut all these pipes into, and they all have to be the same length, that will fit with the 25 metre and the 35 metre. And essentially what this question's asking is, what is the highest common factor of 25 and 35? So to find the highest common factor, what we do is we just find the factors of 25, which is 1, 25, and 5, and 5, and the factors of 35, which will be 1 and 35, and 5 and 7. And the highest common factor is the number in both lists, the highest number in both lists, so it's 5. So what we can do is we can cut all of these pipes into 5 metre pipes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, not to scale, and then 7 of these. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and so there's 7 in total. So each of these are 5 metre long, and there's no wastage. and that's the longest we can make the pipes for there to be no wastage at all. So my answer is 5 meters. So to find the gradient, we need the formula or the equation in the form y equals mx plus c, and the m there will give us what the gradient is. So we're just going to be rearranging this equation. And so I'll get my lines in. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the x's from the left hand side, and we can do that by adding 6x both sides. So we've got 6y equals, and I'm going to put the 6x first, just to match the y equals mx plus c. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is get rid of this 6, because we just want a y there. So we're going to divide by 6 both sides. So we've got y equals 1x plus 36. Now we shouldn't really write 1, but because we're looking for m, we're looking for the number before x, I've kind of left it in there to show that the gradient will be 1. So we're given 21 to 4 is the ratio. We're just going to have our lines in, because what we need to do is make the left hand side be 1. Okay. And to do that, for 21 I need to divide it by itself, divide it by 21, and we're going to do the same to the right hand side. So 21 divided by 21 is 1, perfect, that's what we wanted. 4 divided by 21 is 0.190 blah blah blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so it's going to be 1 to 0.19. So it's really important, first of all, we make clear about how we convert things. So if I've got a unit in kilometers and I want to convert it into meters, then we know we just times it by 1,000. So 2 kilometers is 2,000 meters. But if I have something in kilometers squared and I want to convert it into meters squared, I actually times it by 1,000 squared, which is 1,000 times 1,000. Okay, so I'm actually times it by not 1,000, but 1,000 squared. So that's another 3 zeros. You can see here that that's 1,000,000. So we times it by 1,000,000. So 13 kilometers squared is going to be the 13, and then it's going to be times by 1,000,000. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be 13 million. Now, it says here the farmer must pay 1 pence tax for every metre squared. So this is going to be 13 million metres squared. And so that's going to cost him, or her, 13 million pence. But the answer is going to be in pounds. So we just need to get rid of 2 of the zeros at the end. So it's going to be 13, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be £130,000. To answer this question, I'm going to do a quick number line. And I'm going to put the 12 meters on my number line. And I'm going to think what the next number down would be that it could have rounded to. Well, it's 10 to the nearest meter. So the next number it could have rounded to is 11. And to find the minimum it could have been before rounding to 12, all we need to do is find the halfway point between 11 and 12, which is obviously going to be 11.5. So our answer is 11.5 meters. So angles on a point add up to 360, and we are given the values of the angles, but in terms of r. So we know that r plus 9r plus 20 will equal 360. So we've got an equation here we can solve. So first of all, let's add the r's together, and so that will be 10r plus 20 equals 360. Then we're going to subtract the 20 from both sides. So we have 10r equals 340, and then we're going to divide by 10 both sides. So we have r equals 34. So our answer is 34. So in this question, we've got a right angle triangle, and we're asked for length BC, and we're given the other 2 lengths. It's going to be Pythagoras. And so for Pythagoras, I just label the sides A, B, and C, but C must be the one opposite the right angle. And Pythagoras says that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. We don't know what a is squared, but we know what b is, which is 5.2, and we know c is 11. So when we do that, we get a squared plus 27.04 equals 121. And we just solve. So the first thing I'm going to do is take away the 27.04 from both sides. So we get a squared equals 93.96. There we go. And to work out what a is, we just square root both sides. So it'd be a equals 9.693 blah blah blah. Asks us to do two decimal places, so we write 9.69. I'm just going to write the question out, so we've got a little bit bigger writing to play with here. And it doesn't actually matter which method you expand these brackets with. I'm going to use Smiles and Rainbows, so we multiply the 8 by the 10x, which will make 80x, and multiply the 8 by the 4, which will make 32. Now here we've got a minus 5 on the outside, so we do minus 5 times 8x, which is minus 40x, and minus 5 times minus 4, which is actually plus 20. And a lot of students will write take away 20 there, but that is a minus 5 on the outside of the brackets there. So it's minus 5 times the minus 4 there will give you a plus 20. Then 80x take away 40x, which will give us 40x. And 32 plus 20, which would be 52. So our answer would be 40x plus 52. When translating, we translate with vectors, and the top number in a vector tells us how far right, and the bottom number tells us how far up we go. And to translate a shape, you always pick a point. Now I always pick the top leftmost point, so I'm going to pick this one. And looking at the vector, it says we're going to go 2 to the right. So we do 2 jumps to the right, 1, 2. Now looking at the bottom, because it's minus 4, instead of going up 4, we're going to go down 4. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So our new coordinate for the top will be here. And the next thing we need to do is draw in the shape. So that's the top left part of the shape. And so I'm going to draw in the shape, and it's 4 across. So it should go here. And draw in the shape in there. Make sure that you know that that coordinate is the top left part of our shape. And it says to label it B. So we're asked to rotate the triangle A 90 degrees clockwise and the centre of rotation at 0, 0. So we're going to first of all just show where the centre of rotation is, which is at our origin. And what you do is you get tracing paper, trace out the triangle, and rest your pen or pencil at 0, 0. So I'm just going to draw it out. So just copy it out. And what you do is you'd push your pen into 0, 0. And unfortunately I can't do that. But when you rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, the shape will end up here. And so we just got to line this up perfectly. A little bit less rotation maybe. There we go. And then what you do is you'd lift your tracing paper and just draw in the shape underneath. And it says to label in the triangle as B. So we're going to start off with x equals 0, and we're going to write out this equation but with 0 every time it says x. So it's going to be y equals 0 squared minus 0 plus 10. Well, 0 squared is just 0, so 0 take away 0 is just 0, plus 10 is just going to be 10. So the answer there would be 10. Do the same for 1. So it would be 1 squared minus 1 plus 10. Well, 1 squared is 1, 1 take away 1 is 0, plus 10 is 10. So that'll also be 10. 2 squared minus 2 plus 10. 2 squared is 4. 4 take away 2 is 2. Plus 10 will be 12. Now we're going to do the negative. So we're going to look at minus 1. So it's y equals minus 1 squared. And it's going to be minus 1 plus 10. So a little bit more complicated here. Minus 1 squared is just 1. Now here you have two negatives together. When you have two negatives together, it makes a plus. So we've got 1 plus 1 plus 10, which is going to be 12. And then we'll do the minus 2. So it'd be minus 2 squared minus 2 plus 10. So minus 2 squared is 4. The two minuses here make a plus. So it'd be plus 2, which would be 6, plus 10 will be 16. So we're going to plot these on our graph. And so we've got minus 2 is at 16, so that'll be there. Minus 1 is at 12, which should be here. 0 is at 10, 1 is at 10, and 2 is at 12. Okay, when you join this up, things to be aware of is you need to make sure that you have a round U at the bottom and not a flat bottom. Okay, so you want to avoid a flat bottom. You also want to make sure that you avoid feathering like that. You want just one nice smooth line. And my recommendation is always to turn the page on its side. I don't have that luxury, so I'm going to try my best with this. But you need to make sure it goes through all the points. And here's the part here where it goes beneath those 2 points. So make sure it goes beneath those 2 points. On most exams, I see them, basically what they do is they draw a line across from those 2 points and say that the line needs to go beneath that, or your curve needs to go beneath that line. So they're looking out that you've gone beneath the line. So we're looking to write a formula for the cost in pounds of hiring a microwave for X amount of days. So the cost is C, so it's going to be C equals, and it says it's going to be 55 pence a day. Now, it wants the answer in pounds, so we need to convert this 55 pence into pounds. So that's going to be 0.55. And it's going to be 0.55 times the amount of days. Well, it says the amount of days is X. So it's going to be 0.55x. Then it says that there's just a one-off cost of £15. So you're going to have to pay £15 regardless. So we're just going to add 15 onto that. So the answer would be C equals 0.55x plus 15. The formula for the area of a circle is area equals pi times r squared. Now in this question we're given what the area is, which is 706.86. And we need to find out what the radius is. So I'm going to get my lines in. And I'm going to start by getting rid of that times pi. So I'm going to divide both sides by pi and get the r squared on its own. So when I divide that by pi, I get 225.000 blah blah blah. Very close to 225. Then I want to get rid of this squared here. So to do that, I do the inverse, which is square root. And square root of 225 is 15, and the square root of 225.000 blah blah blah, whatever was in our calculator, is going to be 15.000, etc. So pretty much 15.000. But it says it wants it to the nearest integer. Integer is a whole number, so my answer would be just 15. The most important first thing that we do is whenever you square something, you times it by itself. So we're going to rewrite this as x minus 15 times x minus 15. And then the way we approach this is exactly the same as we've done with the other ones. We're going to do a multiplication grid. And we're going to do x minus 15 at the top, x minus 15 at the bottom, Then we do x times x, which is x squared, x times minus 15, which is minus 15x. Same again here. And then we've got a minus times a minus, which is a positive 225. Put all the terms together. Now you can see here that we've got the x terms here that will add together. So that would become minus 30x plus 225, and that's actually our answer. So it's x squared minus 30x plus 225. When working out if two triangles are congruent, which means they're the same, you can either have RHS, which is a right angle hypotenuse side. You can have three sides that are the same. You can have two angles then a side, or an angle then a side then an angle, or you can have a side then an angle then a side. In this question we have a right angle. We only have two sides, so we can cross this one out. And if you look, that the two sides are next to each other, then the angle. So it's ASS or SSA. So these don't really fit. But the angle is a right angle. So we've got a right angle on both of them. We have the hypotenuse. And we have a different side that are all equal. So the proof here is RHS. To find the gradient, we use a simple formula, which is change in y over change in x, but the way we write it is the second y coordinate take away the first y coordinate over the second x coordinate take away the first x coordinate. So the second y coordinate is 29, the first y coordinate is 9, second x coordinate is 14, and the first x coordinate is 10. So when you do that, you get 20 over 4, which is equal to 5. So our gradient is 5. It doesn't look like it, but we actually have a quadratic here. And the reason it doesn't look like it is because we don't have an x term. But as long as we have an x squared term and a number term, we definitely have a quadratic. And notice something about this second number. It's a negative version of a square number, and that will always be the case because this question is using something called difference of two squareds. And it's very, very simple to work out. What you do is you put down two sets of brackets and you square root the first term. Well, that's just going to be x. And you put the positive and negative versions of the square root. So we're going to square root 121, which is 11. So we're going to put plus 11 and minus 11, and that's it. Now, when we expand that, and we'll just go quickly expand that now to have a look, it's going to be x squared plus 11x minus 11x minus 121. And notice that the two x terms cancel each other out, which is why we don't have the x terms. So we're going to first of all draw a tree diagram for this information. You don't have to, but it is easier to understand what's going on. And so the first choice will be the first pick. It'll either be male or female. And the second choice will be the same, male and female. And looking at the questions, there are 3 male names in the hat and 5 names in total. So the fractions for the first one will be 3 over 5. If there's 3 male names, there'll be 2 females. Now, if we've picked a male name already, there'll be 2 left and 4 left in total. If we haven't picked a female, there's still 2 females, but there's 4 left in total. If we picked a female, there'd still be 3 males and only 4 left in total, but there'd only be 1 female left. 1 female name left and 4 left in total. Okay, we're looking for the probability that the genders of the names are different. So looking at the outcomes, the outcome here would be male-male. That's not what we're interested in. Here would be male-female, we are interested in. Female-male, we are interested in. And female-female, we're not interested in. So we're not interested in these ones. And the way that tree diagrams work is as you go along the tree, Any fractions you go across, you multiply together to find the outcome. So this will be 3 over 5 times 2 over 4. And I realise I could cancel 2 over 4, but I generally cancel at the end. So 3 times 2 is 6, 5 times 4 is 20. We're going to do the same with the other root. So 2 over 5 times 3 over 4. So 2 over 5 times 3 over 4, 3/4. That would be 6 over 20. Now we're looking to see whether it was male and female or female and male. And the word or in probability means add. So it'd be 6 over 20 plus 6 over 20. And this is the probability of different, which will be 12 over 20. Now 12 over 20 will cancel to 3 over 5, or 3/5. There are two shapes we need to find the volume of. There's this cylinder here and this hemisphere here. So we might as well start with this cylinder. And the formula for the volume is pi times r squared times height. So it's the radius is 9, so 9 squared times the height, which is 30. And when we work that out, we get 7,634.070, blah, blah, blah. Next is the hemisphere. To find the volume of the hemisphere, well, the volume of a sphere is 4/3 times pi times r cubed. But because it's a hemisphere, we just times that by a half. So it's half times 4/3 times pi times r, which is the radius, which is 9 cubed. And that gives us 1,526.814, blah, blah, blah. And so the total volume is 7,634.070, blah, 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 plus the 1,526.814, blah, 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 which equals 9,160.884, blah, blah, blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so when we round that, we get 9,160.88. We know that column vectors are shown with the amount right we go at the top and the amount up we go at the bottom. So we've got to work out how far right and how far up we go. So we're going to count the jumps from the start, which is at A. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps right. So the top of our column vector is going to be 5. And 1, 2, 3 down. Now, because it's down, it's going to be minus, and we've got 3 down. So it's 5 at the top and minus 3 at the bottom. So we're asked to express TQ in terms of P and Q. Well, we've got another Q here, because all of these are congruent parallelograms. And we have a P there. So if we're starting at T and getting to Q, we can go along this path here and down this path here. So we're going backwards down Q, in fact backwards down 2 lots of Q, and then the correct way down P. So it's either minus 2Q plus P or P minus 2Q. So we've got a right angle triangle here, and we've got 2 lengths and an angle that are involved in the question. So that means we're going to be using trigonometry. And we're going to start by labelling the sides. The one opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse. The one opposite the marked angle is the opposite, and the one between the right angle and the marked angle is the adjacent. Now we're not using the adjacent here, so we're going to cross that out. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do our SOHCAHTOA triangles. And so SOH, SOHCAHTOA. Just right. Now, because we crossed out the H, we can cross out the triangles that have a H in. So we're left with SO, and SO is short for sine x equals O over H. And so writing that in, well, the angle is x, and the O is 1.5, and the H is 2.3. And let's get our solving lines in. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the opposite of sine both sides, so we get x sine sine. The opposite of sine is called the inverse sine, which looks like that. And you normally press the shift button on your calculator and then sine. So when you inverse sine 1.5 over 2.3, we get 40.705, blah, blah, blah. And 2 decimal places, which it asks us for, that would be 40.71 degrees. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.